My ex-wife destroyed our family for her dream man. A man she barely knew. I served her the divorce she has always wished for. She didn't think twice, signed the divorce papers and left our marriage. Now, she wants to come back. But I'm living my best life without her. I'm so happy that my ex-wife is miserable. I know that sounds bitter, but if you knew the whole story, maybe you'd understand why those words carry so much weight. 4 years ago, I was just a regular guy, 46 years old, married to the woman I thought I'd grow old with. We'd been together for over 2 decades, since our early 20s. We raised 3 kids together. 2 sons, now 27 and 25, and a daughter who's 22. We built a life, a family, a home. We had traditions. Saturday morning pancakes, Christmas movie marathons, birthday dinners with homemade cake. I thought we were happy. Not perfect, but happy. And then, out of nowhere, everything crashed. It started with small things. You know how you can live with someone for 20 plus years and still not notice when they start to fade away? That's what happened with Lauren. She'd always been sharp, witty, someone you could never ignore in a room. But slowly, she got quieter around me. Distant. She'd sit beside me on the couch like a stranger at a bus stop. Present, but a million miles away. I asked if she was okay. She said she was just tired. Work was stressful. She was helping train a new hire. Some guy named Devin. I didn't think much of it at first. Why would I? I trusted her. But then she started coming home later than usual. She'd say, "Oh, we had a late meeting." Or Devin needed help with some reports. I didn't question it. I mean, we'd been together for over 20 years. Why would I start playing detective? Until the night she came home, sat me down at the kitchen table, and dropped the bomb. "I need to tell you something," she said. Her voice didn't shake. Her hands didn't fidget. She was calm. Too calm. "What is it?" I asked, already feeling my stomach twist. "I've been seeing someone," she said. "It's Devin. From work." My mind blanked. I thought I misheard her. "What do you mean, seeing someone?" "I mean I've fallen in love with him. I didn't plan it. It just happened." There was a silence between us that felt like the earth stopped spinning. I sat there, looking at the woman I had shared a bed with for 2 decades, and she just looked empty. Not ashamed. Not apologetic. Just matter of fact. "I don't understand," I said. "We have a family. We've built a life together." She looked away. "I never wanted to hurt you. But there's just something about him. I feel alive again." Alive? Like our years together had been some kind of purgatory? "I deserve to be happy," she added, like it was some universally accepted truth that erased every ounce of betrayal she'd just confessed. That was the first time I felt the deep, hollow kind of pain you can't really describe. It's not sharp or loud. It's just heavy. Like your chest is full of wet cement. I didn't want to believe it was real. For days, I walked around the house like a ghost. I kept expecting to wake up from a nightmare. But no. This was reality. She was in love with someone else. Still, I tried to save the marriage. I begged her to reconsider. I asked her to go to therapy. I offered to make changes. I blamed myself, even though I didn't know what I had done wrong. She wouldn't hear it. Every time I tried to talk to her, she looked at me like I was a stranger. "I'm sorry, Mark," she said more than once. "I don't love you anymore. Not like that." The worst part? She'd only known this guy for 3 months. 3 months. She threw away 20 plus years for a man she barely knew. A man she met at work. Our kids were furious. Especially our oldest, James. He stopped speaking to her for a while. Our daughter cried herself to sleep the night she found out. Our middle son, Michael, tried to be the peacemaker, but even he couldn't hide the disappointment in his eyes. But Lauren didn't care. Or maybe she convinced herself she was doing the right thing. One Friday afternoon, she left for a weekend away to think things over. I knew where she was going. She didn't come home until Sunday night. That was it for me. When she walked through the door like nothing happened, I told her to pack her things. "You can't live here anymore," I said. "Not if you're going to keep doing this." She didn't argue. She packed a few bags, said a weak goodbye to the kids, and walked out. Just like that. She moved in with Devin. I kept expecting some kind of apology. Some phone call. Some moment of clarity where she'd come back and say, "I made a mistake. I want to fix things." But that never came. Weeks turned into months. She stopped asking about me. She rarely called the kids. When she did, she talked about how great her new life was. Devin and I are planning a trip to Costa Rica. We're thinking of buying a condo. I feel like I'm finally living. Meanwhile, I was waking up to an empty bed. Trying to figure out how to cook for one, how to exist without bitterness swallowing me whole. I took walks. Long ones. I'd sit by the lake with a thermos of coffee and just stare at the water. I'd think about all the years I invested, all the birthdays, the anniversaries, the sleepless nights with sick kids. I'd think about the promises we made, the ones she broke without a second thought. Some friends tried to console me. People change, they said. Sometimes love dies. But love doesn't die in 3 months. Love doesn't pack a suitcase and disappear for the weekend with another man. I started going to therapy. I needed to understand what happened, if it was something I did, or didn't do. I needed to stop carrying the weight of someone else's selfishness. My therapist said something that stuck with me. "You're grieving a living person. That's the hardest kind of grief." She was right. Lauren didn't die. But the version of her I loved? That person was gone. And the worst part was, she didn't seem to care. She was posting photos on Instagram, sunsets, wine glasses, new beginnings. Meanwhile, I was trying to glue my soul back together. We ended up finalizing our divorce. Although I had very hard feelings toward her, I faked it enough to get pretty favorable divorce terms from her. It seemed she was so eager to be with her dream man that she didn't have time for a long divorce. So in the end I got to keep my pension and the house, which I had bought from my grandmother. I did have to give her half of my 401k, however. But while the legal outcome felt like a victory, what followed was anything but triumphant. Our home, once filled with laughter, chaos, spilled cereal bowls, and scraped knees, suddenly echoed with silence. The walls, which used to hold family photos and greeting birthday cards, now seemed empty and hollow. No one warned me that defeat could feel so quiet. My 3 children, James, Michael, and Emily, bore the brunt of the fallout. After the papers were signed, the kids drifted like leaves in a slow current. James, my oldest at 27, texted after living with his college roommate for a month. "If she chose that man, I can't have a relationship with her again." His words, typed and sent at 2 a.m., carried the weight of a son's broken trust. I answered, "I'm sorry, son. I understand." But there were no words that could fix that. Michael, who now worked a local job and lived a short drive away, simply let the calls go to voicemail. He didn't block her number, he didn't need to. He just didn't pick up. Emily, the youngest at 22, tried to keep channels open. Once, right after I made lasagna, she whispered through the door, "Dad? Can I take her some food?" I felt hope flicker. But after she returned, her face was blank, tears staining her cheeks. "It was horrible, Dad." She barely spoke. She ended the call crying. With them, it felt like the divorce wasn't something I did, it was something that had been done to them. Just 4 months later, I got the call. It came through in the middle of folding laundry. Her name flashed on the screen and, for a second, my heart stalled, like a judge's gavel banging down. "Can I come home?" she asked, voice shaky. Half of me froze. The other half responded quicker than I knew I had moved. My house. Family home. My grandmother's. That place belongs to me now. She tried again, voice trembling. It was a mistake. Her voice broke, turned out to be an alcoholic. He was abusive and spent everything we had. I listened, like I was watching a distant storm on another planet. Watching destruction unfold, feeling no way to enter it. I couldn't help myself. I spoke from a place that, for a moment, felt like closure. "I told you so," I said softly. "You chose him. You walked out. You signed the paperwork." The words came out gentle, almost clinical. But they closed a chapter I'd never thought I'd write. "We have 3 children who prefer you not to contact them. I told you, take responsibility. This is your life now." She paused. The line swelled with unspoken regret. I closed my eyes. I felt no triumph, just exhaustion. "You don't get to turn back time," I continued. I have to protect our children now, from silence and from false hope. I have to give them space to heal. You sold your place here, and there is no going back. Please, don't contact me again. That last line rolled off my tongue and shattered the fragile remnants of our shared past. When I hung up, I didn't celebrate. I didn't breathe a sigh of relief. I didn't even feel cold. I just sat there, the phone still warm in my hand and the hum of the dryer in my chest. The jingle of dishes in the sink suddenly felt harsh and distant. A minute later, my daughter knocked through the open doorway. She didn't say anything. She just watched me, eyes wide, shoulders small against the weight of what she must have heard. "Dad?" she said softly. I dropped the phone beside the laundry pile and looked at her. "It's done," I said. She nodded, stepping into available arms, as exhausted as I felt. I sat back down, looking around the kitchen we always did breakfast in. The windowsill held a rosemary plant that Emily had been nursing for years. Now it looked almost pale. Like it too had given up. I thought about the pride I had felt when I protected that house, a place that meant everything not just to me but to my family's memory. But protecting it didn't feel proud. It felt necessary. I thought of James, angry and wounded. That text I'd received, "I can't talk to her again." Did he really mean it? Did he know how much that cost him, and how much it cost his siblings? I decided to talk to him tomorrow. There would be tears. Hard conversations. But they were things we had to go through to stand back up. Emily slumped into the chair across from me. After a moment, she whispered, "You were right." My first impulse was to ask, "About what?" But I felt the weight of her grief in her words. I touched her hand. "I know," I said. "And I'm going to help you through it." In that moment, I realized that divorce, my divorce, wasn't an end. It was a fracture. And fractures, when healed, leave stronger bonds. But they do require time and tenderness. I promised myself, and my kids, that I would do the work. Not to win back what we lost, but to build something new that we could live in. So I stood up. I washed the laundry and dried my hands. I walked outside for air, breathing in the cool dusk. My grandmother's lawn caught golden light, it looked like glass. I thought of her, and her words, "Home is where your heart chooses to return." I realized that day that our true home wasn't in a building, but in how we choose to shape our lives going forward. My children, me, good memories, hard lessons, those would form a foundation no one could take away. I looked at my house, windows dark, doors locked, and said a quiet prayer. "God, please bless this place, not because it belongs to me, but because it belongs to our family's healing." I walked back inside. Emily went to each of her brother's rooms, tearing down years of denial and hope. She lit a candle. She prayed softly. Their voices floated down the hallway. "Dad? I'm sorry. We need help." I closed the front door and heard her turn the knob quietly behind me. I smiled through tears because, for the first time in months, I saw cracks of light coming through our brokenness. And even though she had lost her home, I realized that we were starting to rebuild ours. That night, I cried myself asleep. Not from anger, but from relief. Not from heartbreak, but from hope. Because endings are not always losses. Sometimes, they carry us into beginnings we prayed for, but only knew after letting go. Then a few things happened over the last year that have driven her to start trying to contact me again. This time, though, the reasons behind her attempts felt more desperate than remorseful. They didn't come from a place of contrition, but of regret, embarrassment, and maybe a sliver of truth. It started last summer. My sister had a friend over one afternoon. Just dropping by for coffee. She introduced me and her. Since the divorce, I hadn't considered dating. Not seriously. I wasn't looking. But there we were, talking, laughing, discovering shared scars and similar hopes. She was also divorced, and smart, kind, with an easy sense of humor that let me slip back into real conversation. By July we went out officially. We both agreed, we wouldn't marry again. But we loved spending time together. We built something slow and steady, nothing flashy, but real. You wouldn't know it from my ex-wife's reaction. Once she heard I was dating again, she reached out. I ignored her message. Then came the news, our oldest son got married. A clean, joyful wedding. Friends, laughter, a day drenched in hope. Our son didn't invite his mother. Never forward a card. Didn't mention it. I found out later. She reached out, text, phone call, even email, trying to get me to speak to him. Trying to intervene on her behalf. I'd promised Emily, my daughter, that I would talk to him. But I never did. I let it go. He deserved to make his own decision, and part of that decision was to leave her outside the celebration. He was protecting himself, protecting our family. My ex would text me. "Greater than your son is hurt. Don't let him push me away." I read the text, felt a sting, then quietly deleted the message. No reply. No explanation. Just silence. Inside, I felt no remorse. I thought, she torpedoed our kids' world. She blew up everything we had, all for someone she barely knew. She deserves what she's reaping. Her pain isn't sympathy worthy. It's a delayed consequence. Then came the final blow. Just last week, I got a text from Emily. My daughter, gentle and tender-hearted, asked me to meet her after work. I saw the number. I could tell by how she wrote, or didn't write, because the message was strangely absent. Instead it was a voice note. "Dad?" She said she finally broke it off with him. My blood went cold. My phone felt heavy as I pressed play. Her voice trembled as she repeated, she ended it with the dream man. He couldn't stop drinking or paying rent. He wasted the 401k she got in the divorce. And he totaled her car. "Dad, I don't know how she did that. She knew him for 3 months and torpedoed our whole family for him." Then silence. Just her breathing. I closed my eyes, trying to remember what it felt like to save every penny for college, to pray she'd find someone good. But those prayers were interrupted by her reckless abandonment. I walked to the van outside. Emily was waiting. Without words, I pulled over. She climbed in and shut the door. That moment was heavy, heavier than I expected. I reached across the console to hold her trembling hand. She squeezed, and I understood. The shock, exhaustion, sorrow, they all coalesced in the still summer air. I finally spoke. "She ruined everything for 3 months of fantasy," I said quietly. My voice cracked. Emily nodded, tears spilling onto her cheeks. "It hurts him too, Dad. James, Mike, they saw through her the day she walked out. But Emily," she hoped. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I drove her home in silence. That evening, I felt something shatter inside me, not anger, not relief, but a hollow sadness. As a father, I had tried to protect them. But here was proof that she had hurt herself too. In the wreck she had brought back, liquor, irresponsibility, lost money, shame. She got more than she bargained for. I'd cut her off, and the universe had shown me why. That night, I opened the divorce file. Terms, conditions, financial details, I reviewed it all. I thought, she got half the 401k, she knew it. She took it. But someone she barely knew blew through it all. Someone she held in glamour for 3 months changed everything else. Her sense of stability, our family, our kids' peace. I couldn't feel pity. Just finality. She had substituted a safe home for a reckless illusion, and when reality hit, she came crawling back. But crawling back across a chasm she built was the hardest walk, and I wouldn't meet her on that sand. On the face of it I act like I feel sorry for her, like my words carry a soft sympathy, but inside, I'm quietly pleased she's so deeply unhappy. Call me evil, vindictive, cold-hearted, I don't care. She did this to herself. She destroyed our life for a 3-month fling, leaving our family in ruins. She chose drama over devotion, passion over stability, and fantasy over family. And now? I'm watching her taste the bitter fruit of her own choices. I still remember sitting in my living room one Saturday night, casual Fridays in my new place, when her voice popped up on my phone. "Hey, can you talk while I get ready?" she asked. She was outside the bedroom door, painting her face, hitting the hair dryer, talking to her friend. She sounded like she didn't know who she'd become. I let her in. "Voicemail or not," I answered. "Sure," I said, keeping my tone deliberately warm, casual, like friends who part ways but keep some polite connection. She laughed with her friend, "So awkward, right? Living situation, blah blah." I sat on my couch, legs crossed, red wine by my side, listening to her chat through 10 layers of self-delusion. She swayed between excitement and frustration, talking about meeting a guy tonight, someone new, someone sure to be the one this time. I didn't say much. I just let her words wash over me. The house was warm, peaceful. I imagined her little one-bedroom apartment, no room for her ego, no space for her noise. On the phone, I exhaled a small laugh. Yeah, sure sounds awkward. That single tone, that tiny laugh, felt like satisfaction. I wasn't a monster. I just believed she earned the discomfort. In truth, I'd spent over a year living in hell, everyday drama, emotional manipulation, late-night fights, damaged trust. I bore it like a soldier in a trench. But surprisingly, the day I finally locked the door behind her, something in me breathed again. The freedom was reckless. And a little bit luxurious. Hearing her tonight, trying to resurrect some semblance of control over me, made me realize just how small she's become in my orbit. Tonight, I drifted off to sleep with the phone off, the silence heavy but welcome. Weeks passed. I stayed detached, living the clean life I'd carved out with my new partner. When the sun rose, I went to work, came home, cooked, laughed, relaxed. Then came the news. "Daddy," Emily said, her voice quivering, "James and his wife are having a baby." She tried to form the words clearly, but they tumbled out in a rush of joy and sadness intertwined. She was pregnant. My grown-up son, my boy who told his mother no just 2 years ago, was becoming a father. A father. I felt a grin loosen my stern facade. My partner threw her arms around me and whispered, "That's wonderful. Your family's healing." And for those brief seconds, everything felt right. A few days later, I got a text. "Well, isn't that just perfect? Maybe she'll finally get to meet a grandchild?" I read and reread. I felt my pulse stall. Who sent it? The message had no signature, but I knew immediately it came from far away. Her. I deleted it. I didn't respond. I didn't want her toxicity contaminating this hard-won joy. My partner didn't pry. She trusted me. The next week, I found her car, broken down on the shoulder, smoking like an injured animal. She posted a picture. License plate erased, highway in the background, a crashed front end. Caption, "He drove drunk. I thought he loved me." I'd seen enough photos of wrecks. This one cut differently. On a Tuesday morning, my daughter Emily called again. "Dad," she told me that. "It's ruined my whole week." I drove to work in silence, swallowed my anger, and paused. Was I proud? Yes. I wasn't objective, but her pain didn't break me. What broke this family did. A few nights ago, my partner and I talked about Hawaii. "Remember our plan?" she asked. I smiled, so did she. We had planned to go with our families one summer. My ex and I always imagined Hawaii after Emily finished college. But that time passed like a broken schedule. Summertime came and went when we were at her cliffs, tearing ourselves apart. This summer, we finally booked the trip. My partner's cousin's wedding in Maui, followed by a week on the beach. We chose the perfect condo, the one with the balcony overlooking the surf. I popped open a bottle of champagne on the day I booked it. I called my ex, my partner heard me do it, and left a voicemail. "Hey, wanted to let you know. Hawaii, kid's wedding in Maui. We'll send pics." Then I tucked the phone away. I smiled. A slow smile that felt like sunrise after a long night. Hawaii was the trip my ex and I always planned to take once our daughter finished college. Maybe I'll send her pictures. That's where this chapter ends. I've said what I needed to say. I've protected my peace, witnessed her downfall, embraced joy, and I choose forgiveness over victory. I choose my children over bitterness. This part I leave with you, raw, unfiltered, and true. On the face of it I pretend sympathy. Inside, I'm glad. She made her bed. Now I'm thinking about surfboards, coconut sunsets, and half the family who can't wait to meet a new baby.